Terrestrial radio stations do not charge their listeners for the product they create and distribute. Instead, they make a profit from the ads they sell, the special events they hold, the syndication of their most popular shows, and in some cases the special services they can provide to other radio stations. Advertising makes up a major part of radio station revenue, both on air as well as via station websites, social media profiles, and streaming services. For example, stations sell airtime to companies that wish to reach the audience with messages about their products or services. Spots vary in price depending on their length, the time of the day they run, and the show during which they air. The positioning of each spot can also impact its value, with those aired immediately after the show moves to commercial and immediately before it returns commanding the highest prices. In some cases, advertisements are read by on-air personalities in hopes that more people will pay attention when their favorite host is the one speaking. These spots tend to cost more than the traditional commercial. Traditional ad sales has become a challenge for many radio stations, as they compete against streaming services such as Spotify and Pandora. As a result, radio station managers have looked to other revenue models, such as selling graphic ads on the radio website or to participate in advertising networks and affiliate programs. Radio stations that receive distribution via social media sites, such as YouTube, or streaming services may participate in revenue generation programs that allow the service to run ads before or during the streamed programming. Radio stations often hold special events, sometimes on their own and sometimes in concert with advertising partners. These sponsored events serve the dual purpose of attracting new listeners to the station and bringing in extra revenue through ticket sales and merchandising. Many talk radio stations will hold annual cruises or gala dinners during which on-air personalities will mingle with listeners, give speeches, and generally let the public into their world. Tickets can be at a premium depending on the venue and the guests, and the proceeds earned by the station can be substantial. Radio stations are always on the lookout for the next big on-air personality, in part for the ratings and ad dollars it will bring the station and in part because of the potential for syndication that a popular show offers. Radio stations are able to sell the rights to air one of their shows to other stations in exchange for big money. Other stations are eager to fill their airtime with well-known, popular shows and often will bid against one another for the privilege to do so. The bigger the show and the more markets it reaches, the more the host and her contracted station stand to make. Radio stations with a news focus sometimes sell hourly feeds and direct news wire product to other stations around the country. The idea is to eliminate the need for every station to manage its own staff of reporters and news anchors to create an hourly broadcast and breaking news updates. For example, NBC News Radio offers a national radio service that features NBC reporters delivering individual news stories piecemeal and hourly newscasts available through Integrated Services Digital Network, or ISDN, line to stations around the country. Each station can decide to purchase the feed and run the news as its own during the appropriate time slots. These news services are offered by several different stations and bring in a good deal of revenue. To generate the income your station will need to run as a business. Your business activities may be more or less restricted if you are structured as a charity or a non-profit distributing social enterprise, but the principles remain the same. It may seem somewhat distasteful to talk about business in the context of a project such as community radio, dedicated to improving communities and fueled by an ethos of voluntary action and social engagement. This should be the very opposite of capitalist enterprise. But being business-like should not mean being corporate, commercial, or crass. It may mean you need to be hard-nosed, even ruthless at times, but only so you can use your resources and your ideals to get the most out of your station. Your community should thank you for that. A community radio station that is run poorly as a business will soon become a poor community radio station, in every sense. Chasing money can be a dangerously addictive activity. The more money you attract, the more you spend and the more you need. There can be a sudden high that comes from a successful grant application or contract negotiation. Like any addiction, it can distract you from the more important things in life and eat away at your sense of perspective. It's vital that you don't let pursuit of money distract you from your core functions of providing access to the airwaves and social gain to your community. All of your business activities should complement and support the good work that you do. In an ideal world, you would look for ways to be paid to do things you want to do, never do things simply because someone will pay you to do it. Unfortunately, the world is far from ideal, and every community radio station will find there are compromises that need to be made. There are also endless value judgments to be made about the ethics of certain business deals, particularly in relation to commercial activities such as advertising. The staff, or volunteers, making such decisions need a clear framework to guide them. Some sort of code of practice needs to be agreed through the station's representational structures. This could be a simple set of guiding principles or a detailed ethical policy. There are advantages and disadvantages to either approach, but there must be some set of standards to which proposed business arrangements can be compared. At their most basic, a community radio station should commit itself to ensuring that the pursuit of social gain and access to the airwaves is always top priority. Only undertaking activities that are not detrimental to the welfare, happiness, and reputation of the community. Never undertaking activities that would be detrimental to the reputation, good standing, and popularity of the station. Never undertaking activities that would be seriously divisive within the community or cause unreasonable offense to sections of the community. Never undertaking activities that are seriously detrimental to wider social justice or the environment. Even within these broad limits there will be endless arguments. If a company wanted to give you £1,000 to promote the conversion of your local park into an asbestos dump, your decision should be, hopefully, straightforward. But what if an airline offers you a prize of 10 free flights to Florida? Does the airline's excessive contribution to global warming outweigh the marketing opportunities for the station and the personal benefits to your listeners? It must always be possible for the person making such decisions to refer up to the board or representative committee for the final decision. Your management and accountability structures must take this into consideration. In one sense, the services and resources you have to offer are quite simple: publicity, audio production, training, expertise, etc. But that is not what makes you unique. The one advantage that you have over all your business rivals, whether they are commercial radio stations, rival service providers, other media, or whatever, is your place and status within the community. You offer a unique relationship with your listeners, the type of trust that comes from a sense of ownership and that cannot be built by outsiders. You also offer access to sections of the community that can't easily be reached by other agencies or other media. Indeed, the jargon for such parts of the community is hard to reach. Your position in your community has a real value to potential business partners and funders. You make it possible for them to do their job better and at lower cost. That translates into a real cash value to them, which in turn should mean more revenue for you. This should be at the heart of all your negotiations, sales pitches, and grant applications. It is relevant to advertisers. You can reach specialist audiences for businesses selling to particular sections of the community. That may be members of particular ethnic groups, fans of particular styles of music, or groups with particular shared hobbies or interests. Moreover, community radio audiences may be more attentive than commercial equivalents and sympathetic to businesses that choose to invest in the station. Service providers. Statutory agencies often struggle to promote their services to those in the community who need it most. Leaflets pushed through doors are ignored, pages in the newspaper are turned over, away from adverts or articles. Commercial radio may be unaffordable or uncooperative. More importantly, information relayed by a trusted community radio station may be treated with less suspicion and cynicism than other platforms. Funding bodies. Funders don't throw money at organizations because they feel sorry for them. They invest in projects that they believe will get results. Your relationship with your listeners opens up unique opportunities for social and economic regeneration funding, educational funding, health, community cohesion and social welfare funding, and much more. In other words, Your relationship with your listeners is crucial to every aspect of your business activities, and you must never allow those business activities to destroy it. That means not alienating your listeners with excessive or inappropriate advertising, not letting your programming be led by financial, rather than editorial concerns, and not sacrificing your community identity to the pull of filthy lucre. Advertising, either in the form of spot ads or commercial sponsorship of particular shows or strands, is how commercial radio stations attempt to make money. Their equation is simple: the more listeners they attract, the more advertising they sell and the more money they make. With community radio it is not that easy. We need to not only consider what is of benefit to the station, but also what is of benefit and interest to the community. Ethical concerns. Do you want to help sell products that may be harmful to your community, wider society, or the planet? Editorial concerns. Will your pursuit of advertising revenue affect your decisions around programming and scheduling? Impact on volunteers. How will running advertising affect their motivation and commitment? Impact on listeners. Will the advertising annoy your listeners and even cost you listeners? Commercial considerations should affect your editorial policies as little as possible. Decisions about the radio you broadcast should be based on the wishes and needs of your listeners and volunteers, not the needs of advertisers. There is nothing in the regulations to prevent you from taking large sums of money from infamous multinational companies, but is that what your community really needs? In many cases the answer will probably be no. But where do you draw the line? The relationship a station has with its volunteers is crucial to its success. You depend on your volunteers to function properly as a station, in everything from broadcasting to washing up. Your volunteers come to you because they want to be involved in radio, but also because they believe you are working to serve and help their community. Commercial advertising does not always sit easily with that ethos. If it begins to look like you are more interested in helping people sell things than you are in improving your community, their motivation may be adversely affected. Or more commonly, they may not want to spoil the flow of their impeccably mixed drum and bass show with an advert for the local Sure Start nursery scheme. The key, as ever, is communication and participation. If volunteers are consulted about any changes to your policy on commercial advertising, if they understand and agree with the reasons why you take advertising, then they are likely to be cooperative. If they feel like unpaid cogs in a money-making machine, they are likely to rebel. Some advertising is more appropriate for some shows than for others. Of course, you won't want to advertise a youth service during a show for senior citizens, for example. So you will already be thinking about which adverts to run on which shows. Careful placing of your advertising is good for the clients, but can also give you room for maneuver if particular presenters have issues with particular adverts. Different listeners have very different attitudes to hearing advertising on a community radio station. Some take a purist view and turn off in disgust at the first suggestion of an advert. Others will have been brought up on commercial radio and scarcely even notice it. Most fall somewhere between. They accept that radio stations, even community ones, need to earn revenue to get by, but will become disillusioned if the advertising is too frequent, too intrusive, or too inappropriate. There are ways to minimize the negative effects. Don't swamp your broadcasts. Commercial radio may play 15 minutes or more of advertising in any 1 hour. If you can limit your advertising breaks to once or twice per hour, listeners will be much more tolerant. Group adverts together. It is much less irritating to have 3 minutes of advertising once in an hour than it is to have 30 seconds of advertising every 10 minutes. Use a standard format for your ad breaks, for example by always having a station sting at the beginning and end. Make your adverts sound as good as possible. If your ads are pleasant or amusing to listen to, they will be much less objectionable than if they are rough and clumsy. Don't allow presenters to complain about playing adverts or apologize for it. That merely plants doubts in listeners' minds. Have enough adverts in rotation at any one time that listeners don't get sick of hearing the same one 10 times a day, 7 days a week. Thank you for watching this video.